In the 1930s, German dictator Adolf Hitler was practically looking for a vehicle that was affordable for the people, that can be driven and had a connection with love. And this is how it all happened. In the 1930s, Adolf Hitler wanted a vehicle that was suited for the people at that time. When he got a little known manufacturer in Germany known as Volkswagen to create a simple yet reliable vehicle with a rear mounted engine that is actually air cooled. This actually led to the story of the Volkswagen Type 1. So, what exactly is the Volkswagen Type 1? The Volkswagen Type 1, or somehow referred to the US people as the Volkswagen Beetle. The Volkswagen Beetle made its debut in the 1930s during World War II at the time with Adolf Hitler. This could likely mean that the term Volkswagen Beetle was likely due to the prospective fact that Adolf Hitler made a certified people's car, which is ironically a German word for Volkswagen. So the Volkswagen Beetle was started off in the 1940s and 1950s. After its debut in the 30s, the Volkswagen has been one of the most raw and yet recognizable nameplates in German history, earning the nickname as the very first car made by Volkswagen, as it was dubbed the Volkswagen Type 1 or Volkswagen. It is also said to believe that car designer Ferdinand Porsche, who also was the man who later made Porsche, was the man who influenced the design of the Beetle by the whole fact about a British company known as Tatra, which had a particular vehicle with the same shape as the Volkswagen Type 1. So, in my perspective, the Volkswagen Beetle was influenced by a British car brand, but Germany decided to cut the deal off and decided to take over the factory, who were run by the British Motor Company at that time. In the 1960s, the Volkswagen Beetle was sold to the US as a profitable subject. The little Beetle had only a rear-mounted 40 horsepower air-cooled flat 4 engine. This was likely the smallest engine to not considerably be run as water-cooled, as the Volkswagen Beetle was the very first car to be considered as something else. And this would later be the practical fact that Americans say strength through joy, because the Volkswagen Beetle was a car that symbolizes love. If you don't know by any means necessary, Walt Disney had decided to make a film based on a book made by Gordon Bruford, which is called Boy, Girl, and Car, and likely Walt Disney decided to pick some of the vehicles, but one of the cars that the producers of Walt Disney actually touched was a Volkswagen Beetle, thinking that the car was alive. This would reveal to the fact that Walt Disney not only found the perfect car to portray a lovable character, but it could also mean that the Volkswagen Beetle was connected as a symbol of love. When Walt Disney made its first ever car movie in 1969, they call it the Love Bug, or Herbie to be precise. According to some fans, most people believe that Herbie was actually designed by Porsche, while other people say that he was manufactured by Volkswagen. But to be precise, there was only one critical problem that Walt Disney was facing at its time, and that is Volkswagen prohibited the idea of having the brand being synonymous for getting their little German car to be produced for a film. However, after Walt Disney convinced Volkswagen, many people now understood that the history of Volkswagen was not just because of its reliability, it also paid insurance costs, environmental efficiency, and global economy. Almost about 50 years now, the Volkswagen Beetle has been a profitable marketing brand all over the world. The Volkswagen Type 1 Beetle, or Bug for short, was probably the most influential car of all time, and beachgoers simply say it was a buggy. Because why? Because that was the Volkswagen Beetle's nickname according to surfing people. The Volkswagen Beetle has been a global phenomenon at its time when it first appeared in Walt Disney in 1969. When the Walt Disney Pictures ended with its sixth final year of that time, Volkswagen decided to continue on in 2005, thus returning the Beetle to a modern state. And this could likely be that the Volkswagen Beetle was still around due to its timeless and recognizable shape. What people find interesting about the Volkswagen Beetle is that it didn't just become a car. It was more than just a machine. It was something that people could understand, something that people know. The Volkswagen Beetle has been selling for almost 1 million models ever made in production, and the Volkswagen Beetle has surely secured its lineup with Ford's Model T, or the Tin Lizzie at that time in 1900s. Although it's quite common for most people to actually think, why would anyone drive a Volkswagen Beetle if it was only 40 horsepower? Well, here's the thing. When people find out that the Volkswagen Beetle only had 40 horsepower, this could likely be that the fact that air cooling was a lot better than water cooling, because insurance costs and environmental fumes were lessened by when people purchased the Volkswagen Beetle back in its day. The Volkswagen Beetle not only became a symbol of love, it became a global pop culture icon. In fact, Hasbro decided to use the Volkswagen Beetle for the 1986 animated film The Transformers, thus dubbing Bumblebee's original Generation 1 design in the 1980s as a Volkswagen Beetle. However, the live action franchise decided not to use the Volkswagen Beetle but decided to go for Chevrolet focused and GMC products only. However, unlike the rest of the Michael Bay Transformers adaptations, Travis Knight's 2018 film Bumblebee, which is a spin off of all the other five previous Transformers films, debuts the return of the Volkswagen Beetle. The film took place in the 1980s, which of course is when the original Transformers movie came out in 1986. So this allegedly be the only precursor for the fact that Bumblebee was meant to be a Camaro and not a Volkswagen Beetle. I would obviously go for a lot more differences because I think the Volkswagen Beetle really suits Bumblebee. So what did many people think about the Volkswagen Beetle? Well, they think it was actually quite good. Other people say that it was the most influential car in the world because strength through joy is what the Volkswagen Beetle is. The story of the Volkswagen Beetle not only surpasses its time as a timeless legend, it became a classic phenomenon. It became a global icon for people to know what it actually was. The wholesome story from the Volkswagen Beetle's time as a war machine through being a Disney icon to a Transformers legend, the Volkswagen Beetle has influenced not only car enthusiasts but also people who really dig into old cars back in their time. The Volkswagen Beetle was no exception. The Volkswagen Beetle is a symbol to accept uniqueness, quirkiness, and simplicity. Although most people influence other cars like Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Porsche, BMWs, Nissans, but the Volkswagen Beetle was none of that.